and we are moving into our final segment for today, and we're having a conversation about insurance. So this is, of course, something I think some people are either sold on and some are still debating. So we have with us insurance agent Marsha Gill, who's going to talk to us about the benefits or the pros and cons about getting insurance, right? Good morning and welcome.
Good morning, and thanks for having me here.
I have to say, from the start this morning, we've had wonderful looking people in this studio. Seriously, I want to wish you a happy new year. And of course, again, nice to see you. Beautiful colors.
Of course.
Insurance. A lot of people are not sure. A lot of people don't even know what it is like to insure. So I'm sure it's a hard task for insurance agents to even try to get themselves in the position to sell. Why is it important to insure?
Well, I think the first thing we need to discuss is what is insurance?
Yes.
And insurance is protection. It's protection for any possible eventualities. It's protection against loss of all types. It could be loss of life, it could be loss of property, deterioration in health, and insurance is that product or that service that will address all those things.
Yes.
Right? When we're faced with these situations, we can decide to do many things, right? We can decide, are we going to assume the risk of the loss? And assuming the risk would mean that you have the resources to take care of those losses. But I always tell my clients, I said, even if you have the resources, do you want to use all your resources to take care of that situation? Because if it is your savings, if it's your life savings for pensions, for whatever it is, if a situation presents itself, then all your savings will be gone in a minute.
Yeah.
Right? So you can decide if you want to do that.
Now, I wanted to interject there because I think this is so important in terms of establishing whether or not it is important to get insurance. I think people don't realize the cost implications that come with emergencies until they arise. And that's part of what you hear a lot when we see ads about insurance, and we hear people talk about why it's important. But at the same time, I think when you don't have anything happening, you no longer see the need. How do you get people to be able to look at the situations realistically as to what can possibly happen when we try to keep those out of our minds as best as possible?
Well, we have to plan. And all your segments this week, we're talking about planning.
Yes.
Right? And we talked about family earlier in the segment before myself. And we want to make sure that we are ready for this situation, because when it presents itself, then it becomes too late. Right? And insurance is not just about insuring your property and so forth. Insurance is much more than that. Insurance is a way to plan for mortgage. We have a lot of persons now looking into mortgage, especially with the low interest rates in the market. And insurance is a way to plan for mortgage, right? Because all companies, which may be a bank or a credit union or even an insurance company, if you get a mortgage, you're always required to have a life insurance to secure it. And also the life insurance can be used to cancel a mortgage because you have insurance plans that have cash values. And those cash values can bill so high that you are able to pay off your mortgage even before the time. So it's not, say sometimes because of lack of education, that's what we try to do as agents, is to educate persons that we need. It's much more than just insuring your house, insuring your car, vehicle, insuring yourself, right? It's also savings, right? And we talk about goal setting, and we always say that we want to save. And insurance is an excellent vehicle to save. And I like to tell my clients that it's an excellent way to save, because unlike our credit union and our bank accounts where there's easy access, when you have savings on your insurance, you don't really go to it. It's not the first thing that you go to take it out. So it's usually there for the long term. We can also plan for pensions. We have to think long term. And I think that, and maybe some people might be upset, but I think that we have become a society who live for today, and we don't necessarily plan for the long term. And we have to make sure that we plan for that old age, because we'll all reach that point where we will decide that, you know what, I no longer want to go to an 8 to 5. I no longer want to pound the pavement, you know. So that won't just drop from the sky. You have to plan.
Yeah.
And you can do that with a pension plan. So it's so much more. There are endowments. We talk about our children's education, right? So there are so many things that insurance addresses.
Let's start, and I think you're heading into the direction already. People do really only think of insurance as life and car.
Yes.
Those are the first two that come. Now people understand hurricane as well.
Right.
Let's talk about the different types of insurance one can be able to access.
Okay.
And let's start with the most confusing one, which for many is the health. What can be covered? Just because you have a plan doesn't mean it covers everything that is under that you would expect to be covered, right?
So the first thing is it's good to have the health plan, but you also need to understand what you're covered for, because sometimes persons just get caught up and run away with the idea I have health insurance, and it's not until they need to use it that they realize that maybe it doesn't cover certain things. So you need to make sure that when you sit with your agent that you fully understand what it is that you're buying. You also need to read your contract, because the insurance agent most of the time will summarize the benefits of the plan. But you're always presented with a contract, and in your contract has all the details, all the benefits that you're covered for. Health insurance is primarily for your health expenses, right? You get ill, you go to the doctor, most of your expenses are paid for, right? It covers everything in terms of prescription. If you have to do lab tests, diagnostic testing, some plans even offer you the opportunity to go outside. So if there is not a treatment available in Belize, you get that opportunity to travel beyond. We know that many persons die because they really can't afford health care. It's very expensive. I should not say it's maybe more expensive than persons would want to. But when you look at how much it would cost if you were to be struck with a critical illness, for example, and you look at the premiums that you pay, it is small in comparison to what it will cost you to be cured of a certain illness.
And if you talk about, I mean, I know a lot of policies also include checkups. So that you don't have to face. I mean, there is no guarantee as to being preventing any kind of critical situation, but
and we know that preventative is better than cure.
Of course.
And most health plans would have what you call a preventative care package. And we as insurance companies encourage. So it's not that we have it there and hope that you don't use it. We really want our clients to use it because it's good for you, and it's also in those preventative tests that sometimes things show up. And we get little indicators of maybe bigger things, and you're able to, check further to find out. So if you check, early detection is the best prevention as well.
Who can get health insurance? Because one of the things people might say is because, oh, my grandma, she's too old. The insurance company won't want to give her health insurance. So how do you sign up for that? Who can get health insurance?
Basically, every person that's healthy. As we said, we don't want to wait until something happens for you to go. You won't wait until you're critically ill to buy health insurance. So you have to buy it when you're still healthy, when you can still qualify. And it's your health that qualifies you for a health insurance, right? Each company will have different guidelines that in terms of the age that you can buy. But you can really buy health insurance at very older ages, right? But as I said, each company would have different guidelines as to who would qualify. But in a nutshell, you really need to be healthy. So you can't wait until something happens and decide that you now want a health insurance.
It becomes too risky then.
Right.
So we talked a bit about health, and any tips in terms of how to select the right policy for you?
Okay, so
when it comes to health specifically.
Well, if you're buying a health plan, you want it to cover everything. So what you want to buy is a comprehensive health plan, because we don't know what will happen, if anything will happen at all. But it's better that we have something in the event something happens, than not to have it, right? So you want to have a comprehensive health plan that will cover you from a normal consultation right up to any major medical and everything in between. So I like to say it's good to buy it and have insurance, but you really have to think, I mean, what type of plan? Will it really work? What will it really do when something happens?
Just to clarify, health insurance or insurance on a whole is like a savings for, you're saving for your health.
Right.
And eventually the insurance company will eventually get you dealt with, especially if it's a progressive plan, right?
For sure, for
Excellent.
sure.
So let's jump on now into life insurance. Life insurance, what is life insurance and the policies?
Life insurance, we have life insurance because we love somebody. Because life insurance is really about protection for our families. And we want to make sure that in the event we're not present, that our families can carry on. And that is why we have life insurance. And as I mentioned earlier, life insurance can be used as mortgage protection. It can be used as wealth creation because there are cash values that you can have on life insurance.
What does that mean? What does cash value mean?
Cash value plans are usually plans that carry cash on the plan. So it has an element of savings, right? And as I said earlier too, it's a good vehicle because most of the times you don't even remember that you have those monies on those plans. So it's never the first go-to in case of any emergencies, but definitely it's something that is accessible. But it's usually encouraged for the long term. Like things like pension, things like your child's education, right? So it encourages you to plan for a long time. So the earlier you can start it, the more affordable it is.
That's always one of the things you hear. If you start your plan early, you're going to be paying smaller amounts.
Right.
Yeah.
And you're doing it for a longer time.
Okay. So we covered life. What are some of the other areas? And I want to get into some of the property insurance because people know now that, you know, we hear of the fires, we saw the floods that took place year before last. We saw hurricanes, and there are lots of details in property insurance that people don't find out about until disaster happens.
Well, as I said, reading your contract is important because everything is in the contract. And what you're going into is what we call general insurance, and those are insurance for motor, for houses, for boats, for material properties. Again, it is important to have insurance, but it's also important to make sure that you insure for the correct values.
Okay.
And people need to understand that you can't underinsure. Because if you underinsure, when you claim, you will get less than what you hope to receive, right? So you have to understand, you have to at different times take evaluation of your property. If it is, the other thing that I noticed for the last hurricane, as you mentioned, persons had lost contents. And contents insurance is one of those insurance that persons overlook. We insure the house, but we don't insure the contents, and sometimes we might not have damage to the property, but we lose all our contents. And there's a value. There's a value to it, and sometimes a great value. So we have to make sure that if we're doing it, we do it the right way. Right?
And that's one thing people don't know as well. If you are insured, if you own your home and you insure the home, you want to get content insurance. But if you're a renter, you can also get content insurance.
You can.
Oh, okay.
Yes, you can.
So tell us about that.
So your contents are for you. The house is not yours.
Not yours,
but you can insure because the contents are your personal belongings. So what you also want to do with your contents is to also revalue them, because sometimes we change out things. We might start with a small TV and then we upgrade to a 60-inch flat screen. But on the list that we had submitted to the insurance company, we had a 19-inch TV. So whenever we change our contents, and it's good to do it every year because it's every year that you will renew your contents insurance. So you would have to go back and go over the contents, see what has changed, and you also want to devalue because there are some things that depreciate as well. So you might want to reduce those amounts and then increase the value on the new items that you have acquired.
You know, in times of recession, people tend to want to pull insurance because to them it's not important. Like this is just spending that extra money. I'm sure nothing is going to happen.
From it.
So what do we say to these people? How the importance of to make sure that this is a part of your routine. Right,
and you rightly said it, because when persons are in a financial situation, not so good financial situation, the first thing they think, let's drop the insurance. And that might be your worst decision. So what happens is it all comes back to education. And when you sit with your clients, that the first time when you do the policy, and that is why it's also important to do annual reviews with your clients to remind them what are the benefits of the plans that they have, so that definitely that is not the first thing you want to drop. Because insurance is important. I listen to your show a lot, and I listen to Miss Corinne Fuller, and she always has life insurance or insurance as part of her plan.
Budget, yeah.
You know, and I think that as a culture, we have to start to embrace insurance more.
Instead of some of the misconceptions, which we'll get to before the ending. Because I'll use an example. We work here in the news, we have people all the time coming for appeals for medical purposes. And I always think to myself, and those are just the ones who come. There are many other people out there, good friends of ours, you know, working people, middle class people who are doing barbecue sales and fundraisers to meet medical expenses. And I think it just underscores that when you have to come up with a couple thousand or major or even more than that immediately to access healthcare, and it's your loved one, you'll do whatever it takes. And I think insurance can be one of the ways that you can be able, yes, you can save it in a bank if you have the discipline, but having the insurance is also a help there.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Because how many barbecue sales, I like to say, how many barbecue sales, how many turkey dinners do you have to, and that is what we call sharing the risk.
Yes.
That we look to other people.
And the work you have to put into.
Exactly.
And if you have to fly out tomorrow, you know, you can't make that money in one day.
Right, in an emergency situation. So you have to plan. It's better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it.
You know, people have received calls from insurance companies about actually mortgages as well. Is that so? And are insurance companies, because we've heard so much about the banking, and we're so used to, and that's one of the things about our culture. We're so used to what we hear. We don't hear about insurance companies providing mortgages as well.
Right.
So let's say we venture off. Are the insurance companies as compatible as the banks?
Yes, the insurance companies offer quite fine interest rates. The reason being is that the mortgage is not the lifeline of the company. The lifeline is insurance. But companies, insurance companies offer mortgages as a benefit to both ourselves and the clients, in that we're able to get a higher interest rate rather than putting our monies in the bank. We can lend it out to our clients and earn a higher interest rate, and offer our clients a lower interest rate, and even sometimes lower than the bank would offer. And also you're not burdened with all the fees that the banks might have in place. So
another thing that we've noticed a lot, especially here in our country, people tend to venture off, especially for vehicle insurance, motor insurance. As long as I've got that $100 coverage, I am good. How dangerous is this? And how yes, this third
party versus comprehensive.
Versus
this is
comprehensive.
a big argument
and
for
it's
people.
out there every day. Talk to us about that.
Third party insurance is exactly what it says. It only insures the other person. So it doesn't cover you. So if you're in an accident and you have third party and there's damage to the other person's vehicle, your insurance will only pay for their damages. It pays nothing for your damages. If you have comprehensive and you're at fault, it covers both, right? But you also need to be careful, and I think that the last hurricane was a learning experience for person in terms of comprehensive insurance, because people run away with the concept that, I have comprehensive, so I'll be covered for everything, every and anything. That is not so. Comprehensive covers you for certain things, and there's additional riders, things that we call riders, which are additional benefits that you can include in the comprehensive insurance. For example, hurricane and flood. So some persons might have had a comprehensive plan for the last hurricane, and their vehicles were flooded.
Yes.
They would not have recovered because they didn't have the additional benefit for flood and hurricane. So as I said, it's important that you ask questions. It's important that you read your contract. And I think that is where a lot of myths and misconceptions come from. It's not that the insurance companies are not paying or trying not to pay. It's just that you didn't buy the coverage that you think you have.
Yeah.
Right?
And you know, and I think it's a very realistic situation now with the number of floods we've seen. and what the last hurricane brought for you to really consider the type of cover. Even your home insurance, you can include that.
Right.
Going back to the third party versus comprehensive, I think the majority of people get third party because it's cheaper.
Right.
But insurance companies offer payment plans sometimes to be able to meet the cost of the comprehensive.
And the other thing is too that even if clients may want to have comprehensive, the air of the vehicle might not qualify you. So unfortunately, that is something that you have to, you know,
it's the value.
Right. So the vehicle might not warrant or qualify you to be comprehensively insured.
So you're telling me my little 1986 Camry?
No.
But so we covered the motor. Now let's just go back to some of the very common misconceptions that you hear, and I'm sure you hear all of them. Tell us some of the things that are real myths that people believe about insurance, but it's not quite the case.
The fine prints. I'm yet to see those. I've been in the industry.
They're regular text, right?
I've been in the industry 10 years now, and there's no fine print in any of the contracts that I issue to my clients. So that's a big myth, because they always talk about, oh, the fine prints that you can't see. Right? That's a misconception. It's a myth.
Okay.
What about technology and insurance? Everybody have got a smartphone, internet on your phone, this and that. When it comes to without the insurance companies here, what can I do with my phone so that I could reach out to my insurance company in the event something should happen?
Most insurance companies now have a website that you can visit and find out about all the services that we offer. In case of emergency situation, there's always a 24-hour access that persons can reach out to, and that's usually in health emergencies, that they can get assistance so that the institutions know that they can provide the treatment to these clients without any payment, because most persons, especially if you're traveling, you don't travel with money expecting to get ill. So in most cases, if you have a health emergency while traveling, you would want the insurance company to secure those payments on your behalf and sort it out when you get back. So the technology does help in those areas to make, contact.
And unlike in Belize, where you may be able to get treatment without insurance if you can prove payment, that's not the case in other parts of the world.
No,
so it's important when you travel to be able to keep that in mind. Now let's go back to some of the misconceptions. We heard the fine print, right? I want to go back to the one that I mentioned earlier, which I do hear as well. I could put my money in the bank and use that for emergency funds instead of putting it into an insurance company.
Well, you have to look at I like to say you need to look at the history of the company. You want to know that the company that you do business is a secure company. And as I said more than once, is that to me, the money in the insurance company is more, is not accessible. So it's really not, because even when you go to do a withdrawal, it's not as though you can walk into the insurance company and write a withdrawal slip, write a check. There's a process. I don't know if it's to discourage or maybe to encourage long-term savings. So I think that saving with the insurance, for me, provides more security for more long-term planning. And I tell my clients, if it is that you're thinking about short-term, go to the credit union, go to the bank. Diversify. Have some monies in the insurance. Those are for your long-term goals, your long-term plans. And for your short-term stuff, go to the credit union, go to the banks.
Now, what about the belief that people think insurance is just for wealthy people who can afford it?
That is not so.
So, and the premiums are going to be so large that you will be sinking in payments to the insurance company.
That is not so. Insurance, everybody can have an insurance plan. There's something for everybody. And I say to my clients all the time, this is a long-term relationship that I'm building, because sometimes you start with a small plan and you work with person's budget. It's financial planning. When I sit with my clients, I sit with them, I look at their expenses, I look at their income, and I try to offer them something that suits their situation. It's not a one-size-fits-all. So you might have one type of policy, Marlene might have another one. So everybody has different needs, everybody can afford different things, but where you start is not where you'll end up. So you can start with very small plans. Insurance is affordable, very affordable, and everybody can afford
So
insurance.
I can get something that matches my income.
Yes.
It may not be the full coverage as yet, but you can work your way up to that.
Exactly, and that's what we encourage. And they say that sometimes you sell your clients 9 times in their lifetime. Because you might start, when you start working, your first paycheck is small.
Yeah.
But as you grow, then you're able to afford more things. And as your family grow, then you need to look at different type of coverage.
Yeah.
Because it's not just yourself that you're thinking about. You have to think about the whole family.
Now, looking at the, I lost my train of thought. We were talking about small income. When is the best time for people to start to pursue insurance?
As soon as they start to work. As soon as they get their first job, that is when you need to start. And the younger you start your insurance, the better it is. Because when you're young, you're healthy. So that's the first thing. Because the premium will pay the insurance, but it's your health that really qualifies you for insurance.
You're talking here life insurance, health insurance.
Every line of insurance, health is considered. Right? So from the first job you get, as soon as you start to work, the first few checks, you're going to splurge, right?
Yeah.
We encourage you to start your plan because it's more affordable. The younger you buy a plan, the more affordable it is. And once you buy a plan, the premium doesn't change. That's the premium you're going to pay for as long as you keep it. But if you wait until you're older, then the cost is definitely higher.
So we're talking early 20s, people can jump into.
Yes, I bought my first plan at age 19.
Wow.
So it's never too early, and now you find that our clientele is very sophisticated.
Yeah.
They're very educated.
Do you find the young people understanding the importance of insurance? That's
yes.
good. Yeah.
I think that the younger generation is more receptive to insurance. I find that parents now are also planning in advance. So they buy policies for their children while they're still minors, so that they already come up with the idea of having insurance, so that as they go into their adulthood, they understand already the importance and they can further pass that on to other generations.
How do you find a company or agent to work with?
Well,
Without, I mean, I would say without bias, because we know you're an agent and we know you work with one specific company. But, I think sometimes people have had a negative experience with their agent, and they just, that's why it's easier to remove their insurance from their budget.
Right.
What do you do if you're looking first time to be able to find what best suits you?
right, you want to research a company because you want to make sure most of the plans are for long term. So you want to have some kind of assurance that your company will be around for when you want those things. When you meet your agent, first impression is lasting impression.
Of course.
And I think from the first contact, you can feel if you're comfortable with that agent.
Yeah.
And if it is that maybe you sign on with an agent and as time progresses, you find that the relationship is not working for you, you could always change your agent, because to me, for you to give up your policy because of an agent is really not to your best interest.
Yeah.
Right? So the agent, remember, the agent is the person that's face to face with you, but it's the company you're buying the policy from.
Yeah.
So you're not, I like to say you're not stuck. I like to tell my clients, you're not stuck with me. So the minute you feel that you're no longer, happy with my service, then, I can, find another
so companies
agent.
do give you the ability to change the agent if you're not
that's your
satisfied
right.
with that individual.
That's your right. Yet you can change.
But
your
it comes from
agent.
the customer. The customer would have to.
Yes, you have to request. You have to request it. Yes. We are
So
following-
the question is no longer to insure or not to insure. It is actually
to insure. For sure.
Well, I think, and I like that you've spoken about it. I can give you an example. Corinne points it out when she does budgeting. Susie Orman, who is a great financial guru for everybody else, always speaks about getting insurance, and especially from a young age, because of how one major emergency can be a financial setback that will last you a long time.
Exactly.
So I think if we look at it that way, it can be one of the definite pros in being able to seek the proper insurance that you need.
Definitely.
So Marsha, thank you for
Thank
coming
you.
in.
Thank you.
We appreciate you being here and being able to discuss the benefits of being able to get your insurance.
Thank you for having me.
We're going to go ahead now and take our final break, and when we come back, we'll have our wrap-up, so stay tuned.